Well, I'm happy to share a little of my experience with, you know, this adventure in sous vide. Um, for me, it was an unplanned journey. Um, I'll start out with a little background in my as it was mentioned earlier. My father was the founder of PolyScience. I'm just going to try and see if I can make technology work here. Okay, there we go. My father was the founder of PolyScience in '63, and our specialty was precise temperature control equipment for laboratory applications. So whether you're measuring the viscosity of a sample or whatever it might be, that was our world. And then, we expanded this line to heating units, cooling units, big chillers for lasers, electron microscopes, CAT scan, PET scan, and then everything. Well, this is also kind of a fun story. You wouldn't think it, but liquid temperature control is touching your life in 1,000 ways on any given day. The process of DNA amplification, which is PCR, polymerase chain reaction, is actually just a process of heating and cooling samples very rapidly. And so in this image is unit I built for Cetus, who was the developer of that technology, and then that technology moved over to PerkinElmer Instruments, and this is the unit that tested OJ's glove. And without that temperature control system, today we wouldn't have any genetic testing, whether it's forensics or just your ancestry. In 2005, this is the guy. He looked a lot different back then when he was chef de cuisine at Charlie Trotter's. But Matthias Mergis picked up the phone, called PolyScience, and got Karen on the phone in customer service, and she said, I have no idea what you're talking about, but our president loves to cook. And she connected us. I went and saw him, and he was explaining what sous vide was. It was something he had seen in France and was interested in incorporating that into the menu at Charlie Trotter's. And he gave me tremendous guidance. He showed me how the process is done. It was the first time I had ever eaten anything sous vide. I know laboratory distribution. I said, Matthias, if you were looking for this kind of machine, who would you call? And he said, I'd call JB Prince. Well, next time on the phone with Judy Prince, and that thing snowballed from there. I always thought it was a very funny situation when Wiley Dufresne was the next person to call us, and he was competing on Iron Chef. And he was going to use sous vide in his presentation in the competition, but all he had was some, as he described them, some old beater units that he got on eBay. And so fortunately, I knew what he was talking about at that point. And I said, Wiley, I know what you're doing. Where do I ship some units for you? And the funny part of that story is that he had actually called a competitor first, one of the guys that had made one of those eBay units. And he went up to the regional manager, and the regional manager said, no, look, we make lab equipment. This isn't stuff to cook with. I heard about one of our customers, some laundry in California is cooking with our stuff, but we're not getting you any units. Well, of course, that's the French Laundry. So that led to not only a good friendship with Wiley, but also a long-standing relationship with Food Network. This is kind of a fun picture because this was our first exhibit at the National Restaurant Association show. And we had a 10-foot booth in the basement, and nobody knew what the heck we were talking about. Just as, that's a short time ago, 2005, but no one knew what sous vide cooking was. And so we were really starting from, ground zero on this. As I said, back then, the Roca book was the only thing out there. And as you got information about sous vide, a lot of it was really wrong and really scary. And so at that point, I had already taken a class, actually, with the chefs at WD-50, and Jean-Georges were all together at WD-50, then brought Bruno in to teach everyone how to cook sous vide. And the thing that Bruno was always very, very focused on was not just how do I get something that tastes good, but how do I do this and not hurt somebody? His science background really led him to put a tremendous focus on safety. And I viewed that as a key component for polyscience. If my business was going to survive, it was that I helped keep people alive as well. So, I really learned from the best. Bruno Gousseau and I've considered him a friend for, a very, very long time now. And, this was actually I think one of the very first Star Chefs exhibitions where Joel Robuchon was working with Bruno and this was at such an early stage, you can see what they're cooking, eggs, it doesn't get much simpler. We started creating a lot of videos, and it was always quite surprising to me. I'd be shooting videos in my home kitchen. One of the guys on the team at that point, Jason Sayers, would be holding the camera. This was the same camera that I was shooting pictures of my kids with. These weren't high production videos, but one of the key things was it was just solid information. It's, here's what sous vide is, here's how it works, here's how the Maillard reaction plays into it, here's some aspects of food safety, and always taking a fairly scientific approach to the technique. I'm not a chef, and so it wasn't so much about let me share my recipe, but here are the steps to do things and do them safely. And even things like don't boil the food in your vacuum sealer. People don't really always understand that changing atmospheric pressure changes boiling point. But it was really fun because at that point, sous vide was starting to explode. And so we'd post a video, again, shot in my home kitchen, and that week we'd have 20,000 views on it. Grant Achatz was working on opening a Linea restaurant, and he was doing a lot of the work of recipe development in Nick Kokonas's home kitchen. And Nick and I at the time lived 2 miles apart almost. And so Nick and Grant came to polyscience and saw what we were doing in temperature control equipment, and Grant saw how much we were working in refrigeration systems and design of refrigeration. So he proposed the idea to me of, hey, can you make a cold plate, something that would freeze things extremely rapidly? And I said, it sounds fun. I thought I'd end up building 2 of them, one for Grant, one for me. And he's the one that actually dubbed the unit the anti-griddle. That was a unit that I won the Food Network Award for Technology and the Madrid Fusion Award. And so it's just a simple but really fun product. I think one of the things that also really led to the success of the polyscience culinary division was a large percentage of what we were doing was because we thought it was cool, not because there was some business plan. And I can assure you, accountants never got involved in any of this. So the smoking gun is a product that I developed, and again, there's always a fun backstory on it. So I was buying some computer products at this shop in Chicago called CompUSA. And I'm walking the aisles after I got everything I wanted, and there's the dumbest product I had ever seen in my life up on a blister pack hanging there. It was called the keyboard vacuum cleaner. And so it was 4 AA batteries, and I guess you could vacuum your keyboard. And I stared at it, and I started thinking to myself, it's the stupidest product. But then I thought, wait a minute, air's coming in here and it's being blasted out there. So if I just take this part off, I can make a pipe that blows smoke. I mean, a lot of people probably thought it was inspired by a misspent youth, but literally I bought 2 of them, went to the hardware store, and 20 minutes later I had the first smoking gun running in my garage. And I had to take some apple wood and put it in my coffee grinder, and to get the right sawdust for it. But it was really pretty cool. I thought, this is really fun. I was starting to do things like smoked butter and smoking water and making bourbon on the rocks with smoked ice and all that. And so again, I thought of, who else would really think this is fun? I bought another keyboard vacuum cleaner, jerry-rigged it up, sent it to Wiley Dufresne. Well, that kind of let the cat out of the bag, because then, his friends wanted one and their friends wanted one. And I bought every keyboard vacuum cleaner that CompUSA had, so I'm buying, a few hundred of these things. They're probably wondering what the heck happened to people's keyboards. And so actually then I ended up going to Taiwan and finding the guys that built the keyboard vacuum cleaner. And I said, hey, look, instead of that part in the front, can you put this part in the front? And that led to the first really commercially available. Okay, I'm just making sure I didn't lose technology here. Anyway, then we started looking at other fun lab techniques, and vacuum distillation is something that I've always enjoyed myself. Because as Jason mentioned in the introduction, I have my own little urban farm here. And so I was already doing a lot of hard cider, and the idea of making Calvados sounded pretty cool. And so I got a rotary evaporator, set it up in my garage, and I started making Calvados. And, it was really the very specialized restaurants, guys like Grant Achatz, that embraced this technology, doing subtle things like, some lemongrass or some, Thai chili in water, and then serving that water that it didn't have any of the heat or anything. It just had the aromatics that would just pair beautifully with a course. Then the sonic prep. Now, in the lab world, this is called a cell disruptor, but I thought sonic prep made more sense for the culinary world. And this came into play because I don't have the patience to wait 3 years to barrel age the Calvados that I ran through the rotary evaporator. And one of the attributes I didn't mention of the rotary evaporator is that, unlike traditional distillation, if you distill something, you're exposing it to heat and you're blowing off all the volatiles and aromatics, and you capture the ethanol. With vacuum distillation, you can capture a lot more of the aromatics. So, my Calvados has a lot more apple aromatic to it. But then I wanted to barrel age it, and there's no way I'm waiting 3 years. So that's where ultrasonic came in floating oak chips on top of the Calvados and hit it with ultrasonics. And in 3 minutes, I'd get 3 years of barrel age on it. Every attribute. It turned amber, it had the oaky character to it, and it met my time constraints. We started to get a lot of buzz. you know, every imaginable magazine and TV show started really keying in on this. It was in 2010 that I really took the standard lab unit that had been modified slightly to accommodate the needs of the kitchen, and I really designed and built the very first purpose-built sous vide unit. Something that was built to handle, I'd say that the handling in the kitchen is a little rougher than what we see in the labs. You know, in a lab, they clamp it to a tank, that's it, it never moves until it dies. And kitchens, they tended to move on and off and get dropped and that sort of thing. So this, that was our first purpose-built unit. You know, before I move to this next slide, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, I've mentioned a few of the key people that really made this possible for Polyscience to be on the forefront of modernist cooking. But, you know, Matthias Merges, Dorothy Hamilton, the founder of, at the time it was French Culinary Institute, Dave Arnold, just super smart guy, taught the advanced sous vide classes for French Culinary Institute, and a guy that understands and wants to really take a deep dive into all things kind of science and cooking, and really super creative guy. Of course, Thomas Keller, who paved the way with Under Pressure, and then and there are countless others, you know, Grant Achatz, of course, and as Jason mentioned earlier, one of the coolest guys in sous vide right now, I think, is Dave Petranczyk. Without Dave's contribution, I don't know if my book would have really happened, or if it did, it wouldn't have been anywhere near the end result that he helped achieve. And he's so talented in so many different ways. You know, not just an outstanding chef, but most of the photography in my book is Dave's photography. So I wanted to talk a little too about, you know, how these things evolve, and, you know, and the evolution of ideas, and, you know, things that I've seen over the years that have led to, why take that dive into this? A lot of it is the luxury of being a privately held business and just saying, because I feel like it. It's cool, it's fun. And in the sous vide world, is something I wanted to share, an idea that I can share because patent filing took place over 2 years ago now. And one of the problems I see in sous vide is the fact that to satisfy the health department, you have to put this closed cell foam Band-Aid on a bag, and then measure the thickness, insert the probe to achieve dead-on core. And, you know, we actually worked to develop the sous vide toolbox, which was an excellent prediction of thermal conductivity of protein, and still works great today if you're a home cook. But when I asked Dr. Peter Snyder, maybe the foremost authority in modified atmosphere packaging food safety, to validate it with the hopes that I could get health departments to accept the predictive cooking model. And he came back and he said, you know, if anything, it's a little conservative, but health departments will never accept predictive cooking. They always want measured. And I see inherent flaws in the current technology in measured. So I designed a probe system that is an energy harvesting wireless probe. It's not on the market yet. I hope it will be soon. But I'll show you some of the fun attributes of it. First of all, you can't have a battery near food because it's just, you know, heavy metals and food don't really go that nicely together. So there's a tiny little solar panel on the top. And with as little as 2 watts of light energy, it will collect the energy until it's got its 1.2 volts in its capacitor. It can dump to the microprocessor, lights up the microprocessor. It reads 6 temperature sensors in the probe. So it self-determines core. The coldest temperature sensor, of course, is going to be core, and sends a radio signal back reporting all 6 temperatures. So that's kind of a fun one. You know, one of the things that, this is actually just a copy of a Facebook post I put out there. And I see that, you know, a lot of people have some really fun, cool ideas out there and don't really know how to get them to market. And so, you know, if there's, I wanted to throw it out there that, you know, I'm happy to share my insights, my advice, my, you know, whatever it's worth, I guess, you know, how to accomplish something, how to manufacture it. Is this a license deal? Is it an outsource deal? That kind of thing. So I'll throw it out to this group as well. If, you know, anyone's got something really cool, fun they think is a product, let me know. I'm happy to help. I started mentioning this earlier, but this is probably a little more complete list of some of the people that were just absolutely instrumental in those early stages of sous vide. It was very interesting to see how sous vide took off. You know, if you look at the culinary market, you know, as a pyramid, it was just the tip of the pyramid first. And then it was the absolute bottom of the pyramid, the home cook, because they'd eat at Alinea and they say, I want to cook like Grant. And so anyway, again, I want to thank you guys, you know, just for the recognition. I truly appreciate it. And I want to thank you guys also for meeting this challenge of a virtual conference, and look forward to, you know, when we can all have a drink together, and you know, maybe it'll be at next year's awards. So.
We would love that, sir. That was a great talk. It was fascinating just to hear about all the amazing people you've worked with and the type of stuff that you know, come out with, and the way your mind works at looking at a keyboard vacuum cleaner and be like, that would be great to smoke my bourbon with. You know, it's just amazing. If all of you like the presentation, please let him know in the comments. We always want to make sure our speakers feel very welcome. We're running out of time, but be sure to email Philip with any questions. Let him know. And it was so great having you here and sharing just your expertise and what you've gone through. I really appreciate you taking the time to do that.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
And we're looking forward to next year, and we can all go have a drink at the hotel bar afterwards.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
We have a few incredible sessions coming up. We're after a quick 10-minute break. Our main stage talk is Sous Vide, The Next Generation by Chef Tim McGinnis. And then we have Using the Purge by Father Leo, and a pro session for Beyond Blanching, using modern technology to refine the fundamentals of cooking with vegetables. And that's by Chef Jamie Simpson. All the links are on your main session pages. Thank you for joining us in honoring Philip Preston. It was great to hear from him and see all the amazing things he's done. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, everyone else.
Thanks, everyone.